Every 4 years in the United States, many of us as Americans exercise our right to vote for the president. In recent history, we do this after a barrage of ads trying to convince us a particular candidate is the best or perhaps the worst. The most recent election of 2016 was no exception. Many have made the claim that this was the craziest and most controversial election yet. Or was it? Let's take a look at a few other presidential elections throughout history that might prove to be just as fascinating. For instance, the presidential election of 1824. Many called this election the corrupt bargain. There were initially 4 candidates: Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams, William H. Crawford, and Henry Clay. The election was odd because all 4 candidates were Democratic Republicans. Andrew Jackson, who was a war hero of the War of 1812, won the popular vote and took 99 Electoral College votes. John Quincy Adams, who was Secretary of State at the time, secured 84 Electoral College votes. William H. Crawford secured 41 and Henry Clay had 37. Since no candidate earned a majority of the votes, the House of Representatives had to settle the deadlock. Considering the fact that he had won the popular vote and more votes in the Electoral College, Andrew Jackson was confident he would win. Henry Clay was eliminated from contention as only 3 candidates could be considered. Did I mention he was Speaker of the House and not an Andrew Jackson fan? Nearly a month later, many of Henry Clay's supporters shifted their support to John Quincy Adams, enabling him to win the majority of the House and become president. After John Quincy Adams' inauguration, Henry Clay was selected as Secretary of State. The reign Andrew Jackson proclaimed it was a corrupt bargain and quit his Senate seat and vowed to come back and win in 1828, which he did as the head of the new Democratic Party, besting John Quincy Adams, who was the leader of the National Republican Party after only 1 term. Andrew Jackson sought to act as the direct representative of the common man, which is similar to President-elect Trump at our most recent election. Although Trump did not have the modest beginnings as Andrew Jackson did, they shared the similarity of determination which helped them both succeed in each of their endeavors. Although there was no evidence of corruption in our recent election, President-elect Trump has suspected that the system is corrupt. There is a strong belief that some unfair dealings could have taken place in 1824. Another similarity is the fact that one of the candidates, John Quincy, was Secretary of State just as Hillary Clinton was. Trump and Andrew Jackson also share a similar outspokenness. Andrew Jackson has been quoted as saying things such as, "The bank is trying to kill me, but I will kill it," and "By the internal, I'll smash them," which in language of the time was quite harsh. Now let's take a look at the election of 1876. This historic election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden had the highest voter turnout in American history at 81.8%, and the smallest margin of victory in the Electoral College. Rutherford B. Hayes won 185 to 184 in the Electoral College, but lost the popular vote. Controversy ensued as Governor Samuel Tilden of New York was still 1 electoral vote short of the required majority. All that was left to do was settle what was going to happen with the last 20 electoral votes that were in dispute in Florida, Oregon, Louisiana, and South Carolina. Each party accused the other of fraud. In an unexpected move, Congress established a 15-member commission of senators, congressmen, and Supreme Court justices to decide the election. After the swing vote turned in Hayes' favor, it was awarded with all 20 electoral votes from the disputed states. The Democrats threatened to filibuster. The result of this dispute was the Compromise of 1877. It provided that Hayes would be granted the victory in exchange for all federal troops being removed from the South. Unfortunately, this compromise effectively ended the Reconstruction and reversed the gains African Americans had made during the post-Civil War era. One similarity between the most recent election and the election of 1876 was that Rutherford B. Hayes and Donald Trump both won the Electoral College but failed to win the popular votes. Another similarity was the contentiousness of the election. Many personal attacks were made on both candidates in the 2016 election. Samuel Tilden's opposition called him everything from a driver to a thief to a drunken syphilitic. Of course, and thankfully, it was dissimilar in that there was no dispute in any state regarding electoral college votes and no compromise needed that would specifically hurt any particular group. One of the most recent controversial presidential elections was in 2000. This was the election that seemed to go on forever. This election found George W. Bush and Al Gore competing against each other. It all came down to the results in one state: Florida, Florida, Florida. TV stations initially announced that Florida had gone in Gore's favor. but later said that it was too close to call. There were only a few hundred votes separating the candidates. Recounts and lawsuits began repeated arguments over issues such as improperly punched ballot, those famous hanging shed, confusing ballots, and missing names on voter rolls. It took 5 weeks for the Supreme Court to rule to stop the recount. George W. Bush became the first president in 112 years to win the presidency without winning the popular vote. The election was similar to the most recent election in that the ultimate winner did not win the popular vote and began a debate over the validity of the Electoral College. President-elect Trump was chastised for saying he would wait to see the outcome of the results of the election before accepting the outcome. Many felt he would only accept it if he won, but very possibly his reaction was based on the 2000 controversy. The 2016 election was dissimilar in that Donald Trump won Florida without controversy, and the margin of victory was not at all close. While there are many who would say the presidential election of 2016 was worst in history, it only takes a brief look back into our history to see that there have been many others with significantly more controversy than what we have just experienced. I've given you a small glimpse of controversies of the 1824, 1876, 2000, and 2016 elections, but there are many others that could have been mentioned as well. With the information just presented, perhaps you may also come to the conclusion I did. Maybe 2016 wasn't so bad.